Okay, we're live.
Okay, hello.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Professor Kelsey's Book Club, where today we're talking about Last Night in Montreal. Vive le Montréal! Woo!
Oh no, wait. I'll be right back.
Why? What happened? You're supposed to be prepared.
I have it.
We spoke for 7 minutes.
I actually bought this book and have yet to actually open it.
How did you read it?
I got it from the library on my Kindle, so I can switch back and forth at my pleasure.
I also did that.
But I don't want to actually hurt this book at all. It's just to sit on my shelf, so I never actually wanted to open it.
I bought mine used. That's what it means. And I tabbed it up, so mine has been opened and ready to go. Who wants to summarize it?
I'll do it.
Oh my god, Justin.
Oh my goodness.
You always scare me when you're excited to summarize. Okay, go.
So this story is about a woman named Lila who was abducted when she was a child by her father. And any moment before she was abducted, she has no real memory of. And this book has multiple viewpoints. We follow Lila throughout this book from the time she was 7 years old till she was, I'm going to say, in her 30s, probably.
Yeah.
We also get the viewpoint of one of her ex-boyfriends or ex-lovers, as this woman has traveled all throughout the country because they were on the run for so long, her father and her, that she finds it hard to settle anywhere. And so her thing is that she leaves. Unbeknownst to her, for a large swath of the book, she's also being followed by a private investigator named Christopher from Montreal. And it is about how these characters kind of intersect in a way. And they end up in Montreal, where, we have our title of The Last Night in Montreal. And it is basically about that. And it's intense.
Okay, I'm so excited to talk about this book. There's something, backstory, context. I have a degree at the school where a lot of writers from Montreal go to. This book is a quintessential example of a Montreal book, and then specifically a Canadian coming to Montreal to enter into English literature. So Montreal is very much they describe it in the book as well, like very like European. We are probably one of the most different bigger cities. So a lot of people that come from bigger cities like Vancouver and Toronto, when they come to Montreal, they experience like vibes, and almost all of them write a book like this. As soon as I started reading this, like the depressing aura, the mention of like winter, the language, the like just sad vibes of the
Kelsey,
book is definitely Montreal.
I wrote down in my notes that the vibe I got from the way she writes about Montreal is like it's Moscow. Like like I was like, if I just read this book and knew nothing else about Montreal, I would be like, I am never ever going to this city. It sounds terrible.
Okay. But something that you need to understand is that she's also writing about a very specific Montreal.
Of course. Yes.
So
from the perspective of someone who is not at home in the city.
So
very important that he's a New Yorker.
So I am a New Yorker who has visited Montreal twice, and I found it to be an absolutely endearing and lovely city.
Yes, but were you staying in a shitty hotel?
Were you going to strip clubs?
I mean, yes, I did go to strip clubs.
Yeah, but you went to good ones.
I went to good ones, and it was very warm out. And then I visited
your lover who abandoned you.
Yes.
The desolate.
There are I have so many thoughts about just the structure. Not structure. Structure is not the right word. The language aspect of this book that they get into, like as somebody who is friends with somebody in Montreal and has visited Montreal and Quebec,
Who are you friends with
multiple.
in Montreal?
It's a mystery.
It's
He
a
keeps it a
mystery.
secret.
I keep it a secret. I mean, we're not like super tight or anything, but I have some thoughts.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But yeah, it was like reading this book. It was just like, oh, I've been there. Like I was like, as somebody who's visited there, it's like I know that street. I know exactly where they're talking. I know what's going on here. But no, I've never visited. I've had friends visit in the winter when they said it was unbelievably cold, like the coldest they've ever been.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can understand that aspects of it. I cannot wait to dive into like so many aspects of this book.
Yeah, so to talk about like the way that it's described, like so Montreal, I think also specifically at this time when Emily St. John Mandel went to school, is a lot colder than like Montreal is now. So I remember being like a kid and it was like -40 out and we were just going out -40 Celsius for the Americans.
Which is probably like 45 degrees here.
No, it's probably like -30.
Yeah.
It's after
It's
zero,
cold.
you guys get closer, I think.
So -40
32 degrees Fahrenheit is 0 Celsius.
It's -4. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Celsius,
Yeah,
-40 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, it's very similar. But yeah, so it used to be very cold. Now Puxatawny Phil saw his shadow, so it's been pretty warm here. But it used to be really, really cold, and specifically in the time that this was written, which is like early 2000s, Quebec was extremely cold. It's not one of the coldest provinces, but she definitely, I think, is overemphasizing the cold. But I think it's written from someone who is not from here, and then from the perspective of someone who is also not from here.
Mhm.
So it is obviously a lot colder. Like minus what I can handle cold, not like people who are not from here, from Canada, would be able to handle either.
Mhm.
So I can understand that the overemphasis of it, because there's this contrast with Michaela often in the book where she's like in a skirt and like out, and like I went clubbing in skirts too in -40. So there's a lot of like differences there that I think is really funny, where Eli is constantly like, it's cold, we should go inside, we should be we should be here, we should
He
be
literally
there.
says at one point, we're going to die if we
Yeah,
stay
and
out
she's
here
like
anymore."
relax.
She's like, please calm down.
She's like, pass me a cigarette.
His narration is like, and I doubted if I would ever be warm again.
One part he's
Me
like,
every day.
I had to believe that I could feel my toes again one day.
Yeah,
And it's just like, all right, like let's back it up a few steps.
I mean,
We're
Eli's
not
a
in the
little
fucking
dramatic.
Arctic.
Eli's
Well-
pretty dramatic in general.
So
So
I have-
we'll get into that. But what about should we say overall feelings? We didn't even do like
Oh
our
yeah,
we
we
overall
didn't
do
even
overall
do our
feelings.
ratings.
Come on, Kelsey.
Sorry,
Come on, you're supposed to be
I'm
leading
just
this discussion.
I'm just so excited to talk about my city.
Okay.
I gave it 4 stars.
Mhm.
I'll start us out.
Really? We never knew.
We never would have known this previously to this discussion.
Anyways, I would have given it 5 stars, but there was just like a je ne sais quoi in here that I think prevented me from giving the 5 stars. But overall, I really, really had a great time reading this.
Great time is an interesting way to put it when it comes to
I
the
did. I
the
had a
subject
great time.
matter
I'm
of this
sorry.
novel.
So I will go next. I gave this 4.5 stars.
Okay.
Wow. I feel like this is your highest rated.
Is it? No, I gave Confessions 5.
Oh yeah, it's true. We all love that one.
I enjoyed the absolute fuck out of this book
Mhm.
until the last 30 pages. And then I was just like, oh, I didn't see any of this coming, but it's still I found it to be a beautiful read. Like it was the perfect length.
Mhm.
Usually I feel books that are like 240 pages don't really have enough time to like get in, make their points, and get out with me feeling satisfied. I felt very satisfied when I finished the book. I didn't love the way things went for some of the characters, but I still felt that it was just the writing. And I messaged this Bobby last night when he asked me, because this is something new for me. I finished this book 2 hours ago.
Who are you, Bobby?
Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, I finished it about 6 hours ago.
So my problem is with these book clubs is I usually get the books out of the way pretty quickly, and now we're doing the book club 6 weeks later, and I've read 3 other books since then, and I have a hard time coming back to them. So I wanted to be a little bit fresh. So as of last night, I had only read up to like page 25, and I was like, well, I've got a lot of reading to do ahead of me for the next 36
I know. I was
hours.
panicking today, looking at your Goodreads updates. I was like, do they need more time?
But yeah, I wanted to have like fresh feelings when I came in, and I really enjoyed reading this book.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would give it 4 stars as well.
Wow, look at us.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was excellent.
It's Emily St. John Mandel. I don't think there's a book. I don't think that Bobby and I could read one of her books and be like, we didn't really like this one. It's just a feeling.
Yeah, but I will say, like for me, Glass Hotel and Sea of Tranquility, which are the other 2 I've read, which are her 2 most recent books, and this is obviously her first novel. Those are both 5-star books for me, but what I loved about reading this after having read this, so I know, Kelsey, you said that you usually try to read along like on their like writing journey, like from when they started, because you like to see their progression, which I totally get. But I also like doing it this way too, which is sort of how I did like when I read Carrie by Stephen King. I had already read like a bunch of his later books, and I love going back to this first book and seeing all the sort of seeds of what she's going to kind of refine later on in her writing, career, because the multi perspective and the sort of underlying but unsaid sort of, there. I think the detective says it once. There's like a supernatural, like he just knows where they're gonna be.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And all the stuff that comes in her later books, which is these like kind of weird connections and stuff that I think I don't know what, because obviously there's 2 more books between this and Station 11. I don't know Lola's Quartet. And
something with a gun.
Yeah, hold on. I just put them on my Amazon.
The Trumpeter's Gun or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I don't know where she realizes that if she
Singer's Gun.
If she brings a little bit of genre into the work, it sort of crystallizes, I think, a lot of the things she likes to do, because she likes to live in this kind of realistic unreality where there's stuff that's happening that would never happen in real life, but it's all told with this sort of very earnest, very emotionally truthful sort of power behind it. And I think here she sort of hasn't quite, because it's her first book, hasn't quite gotten there yet.
Yeah, I thought the detective was just going on dad vibes.
Yeah.
And I was like, good for him.
Yeah.
So when I was reading this, I thought that as well. I'm like, oh, he's just got like one of those detective senses. And then later in the book, when he starts remarking on the fact that he was freaked out by how right he was, I was like, oh, she's doing her thing.
She's doing her thing. Yeah.
She's doing her thing where she's going to take somebody, or there's always one little tweak in these books where it's just like somebody's got some sort of unique ability, or it's a ghost story, or it's a time travel story. Like I really like that about the way that she writes.
Yeah,
it's not the point of the book, but it's just like this little throwaway thing. Like, by the way, this guy knows exactly where this woman is at all times, and he's not a stalker. Or is he?
I mean, he's a little bit of a stalker.
He's a little bit of a stalker.
But here's the thing. It's like there were so many lines in this book about that. Like, and I think that I wish I had highlighted it. But basically he was just like, look, not everybody is the star of the drama. Some people are there to just witness the drama.
Yeah.
It was like one of the lines that she wrote. And I was just like, okay, like that tells me that you are just, that you're caught up in something, but you're just witness to it. You're just watching it.
Yeah, they bring it up when they're talking about the story of Icarus, which is that there was like a shepherd who watched Icarus fall from the sky or whatever, and he wasn't part of the story, but he witnessed the story, and that's something that's just as important as the person who is the people who are actually part of the story, because they would never the story would never get told, right? If there was nobody to witness it happening. So like so. Like I said, that thing, right? She hasn't really crystallized yet that she's going to have this sort of like superstructure yet. That sort of, like you said, Justin, isn't the point of the story, but sort of glues all of these things she wants to do together. And also in Glass Hotel and in Sea and Tranquility, she plays a lot with formatting a lot, like the way she formats pages and passages and sentences and stuff like that. And in this, you can tell it's very like first book. It's like just text. There's like not a lot of like,
But she is playing with form in the chapters. There's a lot of like back
one
and
page
forth.
one page chapters.
Yes,
Simple
absolutely.
perspective.
Yes.
Third person. So she is playing with that, and it's more importantly like this idea of like time, and then depending on the perspective, which I think is really interesting because obviously only one of the chapters that we follow is present perspective, and everything else is, as the French say, passé composé, in the past.
And I mean, the thing that she's already so good at, this is her first book, is like there's all of these different timelines happening. They're jumping back and forth, sometimes with the same characters, flipping back and forth between different eras of their lives.
Yeah.
And at no point was I ever confused about where we were, what we were talking about, what event we were trying to sort of recount or impact. And I trust her writing so much that there were times where like they bring up a name or a thing, and I was like, am I supposed to have known this? And then I'm like, no, she'll tell me. But it's when I'm supposed to have known about this.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to go flip back and see if I missed like a little offhanded comment. Like that just doesn't exist in her writing. She's so deliberate about how she highlights things and emphasizes things, and it's just it's amazing to me. Like this is her first book.
I know.
Yeah.
You guys can say thank you to Concordia University.
Also, and I read a little bit about her before we came on here, and like there's like there's like slight like connections to. She has a French mother, a Canadian mother, and an American father. She was homeschooled, when she was young. She was moved away from her home when she was pretty young. So there's some connections there. And I'll say I listened to a little bit of this book on audiobook. Her name is Lilia, not Lila, which is like was a very weird name, but also sort of sounds a little bit like Emily in some ways as well.
It's also a name that can be used in English and French. So a lot of like French Quebec kids often have names that are so like Kelsey, Lilia. So we have like names that are easily translatable in a way. So I think that was like deliberate that her name has vowels. Lilia. But even like just the way that Emily St. John Mandel like describes that parental relationship, but also like the way that her mother is, the accent is something that obviously I can picture in my head listening to the book. Like the audio narrator didn't use an accent, obviously for a good reason, but in my head, like I could understand that, and there's like a lot of subtleties about language in the book as well that I would like to get into if you guys would like to get into it.
Yeah,
because Montreal is very language focused. Montreal and Quebec City are the two cities in Quebec, the province, that have the most Anglophones. So when you're born in Quebec and your first language is English, you're referred to as an Anglophone. And so a lot of like politics in Quebec are specifically derived from this conflict between English and French. And a lot of people growing up in Montreal around the 90s and the early 2000s grew up around something that was called the referendum. And the referendum in Quebec was when it was a very distinct, like, do we separate from Canada or do we not? And it was a 51 to 49% vote with the Anglophones winning, even though a lot of Quebecers obviously had to make up that majority for us not to separate from Canada. So language has been a very heavy topic in the politics of Quebec for a really long time, mostly because the Quebecois French are taught to believe, or they believe that the French language is dying. And what I think was really interesting in this book specifically is that Ellie, or not Ellie, Eli in New York is studying dead languages.
Yeah.
And this is contrasted with Lilia, who's coming from an area in Canada where the belief is that the French language is dying, and it's the cause of this is because of the need for English and the rise in English in the province and in Canada in general. Despite the fact that after years of colonialization, obviously Indigenous languages are the most threatened in Canada, but I digress. This is an interesting thing because Eli is actually studying languages that have died over time, and is going to a city where majority of people speak French, only interacting with Anglophones. So Michaela, often these are Anglophones are often like immigrants to the city, people whose families were immigrants to the city, and then over time they've kind of created these and formed these communities. And so I think it's really interesting that like Eli is sort of representing this interest in dead languages, and he's the one that travels to Montreal where the French language is dying.
I mean,
So I thought that was really cool.
They bring up that point when he's talking to one of his, French coworkers. Is just like, yeah,
Genevieve.
it's just like,
Yeah.
imagine a tower that's being overtaken by water, and then, you try and dump out the water over and over again, and they're like, just imagine the tower as being this specific language of French that is spoken in Montreal and Quebec, and the water is English, and that they're constantly trying to dump it out. I respect this. Like, I respect the fact of wanting to keep your culture, and but even today, like, recently I've seen articles where it's just like, are we going to defund? I think it was like talking about American colleges in Montreal and the funding that goes to them and things like that. And it's just like, one of the characters in the book gets fired for speaking English in a store. And like, when it gets to that
does happen.
When it gets to that type of stuff, I just want to like just hit people over the head with a baseball bat. And then it's just like, I want to see your language go extinct because you're being a jerk about it.
So that's an argument that often comes up in Quebec politics, right? Like, obviously I'm very proud to speak French. No English person is upset that they can speak 2 languages, let alone 3 if you're kids of immigrants and stuff like that.
I'm jealous. Bobby and I are jealous that you can speak so many languages. I wish we could, but it doesn't, like, still, like, if you speak English and you're visiting the country, it's just like, okay, let's all calm down just a little bit.
So, well, there's that scene right at the beginning, right, where he says pardon me in French or whatever, and they're like, oh, hi, and then he's like, oh, I have nothing. He's like, can you show me where to go? And they're like, go fuck yourself.
That's like a very.
But then later a couple of chapters later, I think he's in the cafe and he thinks he hears it's not Lila, so
Lilia.
How do you say it? Lilia, excuse me. He thinks he hears her name and he goes up to the people and he tries to interrupt their conversation in French, and they're like, you would be much more comfortable speaking English, wouldn't you? And he's like, yes, thank you so much. And that honestly is the two exact experiences I've had while visiting your country.
Yes.
It's just like, we appreciate you trying. We're going to speak English anyway. And the other person's like, I literally hope you die.
Yeah. But, and thus, the political landscape is born. So that is, and I also appreciate Emily St. John Mandel for these type of realistic interactions, because I think as a Canadian but from British Columbia, these are probably real things that she did experience as a student going to school. The area that she specifically focuses a lot of Michaela and Eli's interactions is the street where young kids go clubbing. So post
Kelsey, where is it? Where is
Saint Laurent and Prince Arthur? So the Cafe Depot that she brings up is a Cafe Depot that is a staple.
How far from old Montreal were when
Very
you and I met up? Oh, so like far.
well. We met
We
up
met up in old
in
Montreal.
old
As far as
Montreal. It's it's not. It's like not that far, but like by walk, it's probably like an hour and a half. Like we wouldn't have
so
been able to walk. Yeah, we have to
up
go
where
up.
you work.
Yes.
Okay, so I didn't visit that area of the city
No.
yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So it's very much like hipster student like clubs. That's bars. That's more what it is. And then when she refers to St. Catherine, she's referring to the strip clubs, the older clubs.
St. Catherine is that long street, right?
St.
That
Catherine's our
like
main street,
yeah,
pretty much.
yeah.
And when she's discussing like strip clubs, go-go dancers, stuff like that, that's near Crescent. That's so Crescent and Saint Laurent are the like the tourist crossroads. So that's where most
Yes.
of the sex clubs are, the strip clubs, stuff like that is there.
I
Um,
stayed right off Crescent.
of course, you were there for a bachelor party. I don't expect anything less. And then Michaela works as a go-go dancer. And basically, like the subtle difference in it is that in I don't know in the rest of Canada, but in Montreal, you can be more handsy with strippers. So go-go dancers, burlesque dancers, stuff like that. Those are the ones that are more like they're
Mm.
just there to dance. Okay. And then we don't have a lot of go-go clubs anymore. It might have been a bigger thing when Emily St. John Medell was in school, because Concordia and McGill, which are two English universities, are right on each side of Crescent. So it makes sense that this is where she would be accustomed to like seeing every day. And then it would make sense that where younger university students go clubbing, which is Saint Laurent, that's where the Cafe Depot. She probably had an apartment around there. It would make the most sense to me.
Did she write this book? We never get a real time frame for this book, but I'm
Mm-mm.
assuming that she wrote this somewhere
I think I looked
close
it up
to the
actually.
2000s. Because
Yes.
there are cell phones. Because I was wondering this for a while. I'm like, is this in like the early
Well,
90s?
she's not
Because
that
they
much older than
mentioned,
us.
yeah, but she mentioned cell phones, but Eli leaves his cell phone at his apartment
Yeah,
in New
that was the
York,
part I
which
was like,
is
well, this is
not a
definitely not
thing.
modern.
Yeah. Like, oh, I left the cell phone. Oh,
Oh, I left my cell phone
well.
on my dresser. Okay, buddy. Well, there's also that line where he goes like, "Oh, I called Michaela and it rang. It was obviously a cell phone because it was a crackly ring or whatever." I was like, "All right, we are definitely in like
Yeah,
early not early, but pre-smartphone days probably
Yeah.
of cell phones."
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I got my first cell phone in 2010.
Mm.
So
Well, she's
I
10
just got,
years younger than us.
I
I'm
Jeez.
know,
I was
I know,
16.
I know. I forget these things sometimes.
Jeez.
I got my first cell phone. It was one of those little Nokia ones
Uh-huh.
that was
Yeah,
had the
uh-huh.
snake on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had that too. I didn't have an iPhone right away.
I
Please.
didn't have an iPhone till like 2016. So
Same.
yeah, but I was also like
Just
almost
because
30.
I'm 10 years younger doesn't mean that the revolution of cell phones sped up. It was the same age. Anyways, this is definitely in the early 2000s. You can
Yeah.
just tell by
Mhm.
even just the atmosphere. The weather I think is a really big thing as well. Obviously global warming is more relevant now than it ever was in the past. And the language is also not that it's not a big deal back then, but it's like very prevalent in their discussions. Um, the weather, the strip club lifestyle, and this theme of running away, which I thought was really interesting because every single character in this book had motivations to leave, and they're constantly pushing each other away, and running away, sort of.
Yeah.
So I would like to know what you guys thought of this theme of running away. Did you find like there was anything else to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was in a lot of ways. I think this is true of a lot of her, or at least the other two books of hers that I have read, which is that she tends to focus on actions taken by a person, which sort of like spiderweb out and affect a whole like group of people essentially,
Mm-hmm.
so like Lilia's father, right, makes what is probably the right decision for his daughter, right, that we discover at the end. But in doing so, he creates a spider web of consequences that are both good and bad, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
in this book, mostly bad from what happens. People get hurt. People's sort of um Lilia's like whole life and whole sort of like personality is defined by this, and she ends up hurting other people on her way through. Christopher's entire existence becomes about finding these people, which affects his wife and affects
Daughter.
his daughter majorly, obviously. um and so I think that in that way, I think that's sort of what it's about, right? About this fact that like running away, it has consequences in a way that you can't even really you know see in the moment that you decide to do them, right? And it's the same. Eli is, well, like you said, he's running away. He's running away from in a different way, right? Than
Yeah.
he's running away, I think, in a way that most people can more identify with, right, than what's happening with Lilia or Michaela or Christopher, which is this: my life is going. I want my life to be something, but I'm scared. I'm kind of scared to fail, so I'm just gonna sort of like run away from that and just sort of be a part of something I don't really care about, right? And he's this metaphor they kind of bring back at the end, which is this kind of like ice skating, right, across life. He's doing it as well, even though he's not even realizing that he's doing
Yeah.
it, right? For most of it.
I think also another thing with Eli is that he doesn't see how he's running away, because he could have very easily um figured out where Lilia was if he tried harder.
Yes.
But he was sort of like humoring. I think he wanted to believe he was humoring Michaela and like being there and like listening to her, but he could have left at any time. He could have accepted his
Mhm.
reality at any time. He also could have probably found Lilia somewhere, right? Because at the end, when he's not looking for her, that's where all three of the characters come together at Place des Arts metro station, which we could talk about after. But Montreal is not, and I think that's also what Emily St. John Mandel was trying to get at. It's that it's not that big of a city.
Mhm.
It is big. I'm sure you can never find someone here, but I think if Eli wanted to, he would have. He found
Right.
Michaela very easily, tight rope walking on a in
Yeah.
between buildings, like
Yeah.
randomly. He didn't even know what Michaela looked like. So I
Yeah.
think that this like whimsical, like anyone can find anyone type of, even the
Mhm.
the cop, right? It's like
Mhm.
this belief that like you can pretty much, if you set your heart to it, you might find what you're looking for, and all of these characters are running away from maybe what
Yeah.
is better for them.
Yeah. I think Eli as a character is very interesting because I think every character in this book, at one point, I'm like, I get you, I'm on your side, and then the next chapter they're in, I'm like, you've gone too far. I do not get at all what your deal is.
Hmm.
And not in a way where it's out of nowhere. Like it still feels natural and the characters feel real. But I think Eli's interesting, right? Because Eli, understandably, right, this girl who he obviously was in love with, who disappeared on him. um he it's sort of understandable, right, that he would want to at least see her again, to be
Hmm.
like, I need to at least get closure on the situation. And he is very much, most of the time, until Michaela is like, she said she never wished she left New York. He's kind of this, I think, a semi admirable mind, where he's like, I'm not here to be like, you're coming back with me, to New York. I'm here just to be like, are you okay? Like, I just want to see you again, and then I'm gonna let you go. Or even he says at one point, like, I'll just disappear with her. Like, I'll just become part of whatever her life is supposed to be. I'll kind of like fold myself into it at a certain point.
Hmm. And I think,
But
oh, go.
sorry, no, I was saying, but in the end, it's you really learn it's just because he's terrified of being alone, right? He's just terrified of it, which is why he spends all this time with Michaela.
Yeah.
Right? Because Michaela is obviously stringing him along, leading him on, but he is so desperate for a connection with somebody and to not feel alone in this Siberian city that he's in where nobody likes him.
So cold.
That he does a lot for her and spends a lot of time with her that he doesn't really need to be spending with her, for reasons sometimes that are kind of. There are times where he's definitely to try to get information out of her, but at other times it just seems like he needs her as much as she needs him in a lot of these in a lot of these times. And there's even times where I thought there was going to be some sort of like romantic thing that came up between them, because
that's where I thought it was going.
Yeah,
I really did.
Yeah, like
I thought when he was running for the train, that he would catch her, and that he would just the book would end with him leaving with her.
Oh, Justin.
Not
too romantic for Montreal depressed
Yeah.
books. The pathetic fallacy in this book is that the weather affects everything, and it's cold and desolate and scary, and that's the point. That's why all Montreal books take place in the winter.
So
it was purposely chosen that way, because she could have sent Eli in the summer. What was stopping her? He would have had a great time. Montreal's great in the summer.
It is great in the summer.
What were you gonna say, Justin?
So I think everybody in this book actually kind of sucks except for one character. And it's what is it? Michaela? Michaela, sorry. I really do. Like I felt the worst for her, and I thought she was the innocent party in all of this.
I mean, she's not innocent.
She's also horrible.
She's fine.
She holds this information over Eli's head. This guy who's literally come from America. He has he's running out of money. He has nobody in the city. All he wants to know is where this girl is. She has the information, and she won't tell him because she wants to know something that isn't even his information to pass along. It's not his information,
But on the same end,
just as she plays with her life all the time. She's walking on clotheslines.
She was supposed to be in the circus.
She was not supposed to be in the circus. They never told her she was going to be in the circus.
She wanted to be in the circus, and they told her no.
Yeah.
Okay. She could have went after.
To me, she was the innocent party in all this.
So the child that was abducted from her bed and also developed daddy issues was not innocent either.
No.
Okay.
Because at a certain point she becomes an adult, and she
continues. So does Michaela.
Michaela's also an adult.
She is, yes, she is an adult, but Eli had the information. He could have given it to her at any time if he really wanted to go find.
It's not his
girl.
secret.
Yeah.
It's a fucking secret where nobody actually died. It's not like a life and death situation. He could have given it up if he really wanted to see her, and he eventually does.
But
he's
yes,
broken down
obviously.
enough.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, Eli didn't actually. Eli was also running away. Like, he's experiencing something through this relationship with Michaela, but Michaela's also horrible. She keeps Eli up until 5 a.m. in the minus 40-degree weather. Just to walk with her down the street. I've done that. You know how horrible it is.
She had both of her parents just absolutely leave her alone when she was 16 years old.
And why, Justin?
Younger than that. What?
Because they were in the circus.
No, not because they were in the circus. Because her mother is having an affair with somebody else and just fucks up, like gets up and fucks off. And her dad's like, I have this weird obsession with this girl where I know where she's taking a shit, and he just fucks off to America for years at a time when the girl's 14, 15 years old.
Oh, she had a shitty growing.
She definitely had a shitty growing,
sure.
And she realizes that this other girl is the cause of a lot of her problems, and she needs to know what happened. I need to know what happened here on this one thing, and Eli can't bring himself to say yeah, your dad was run off the road and lost the ability to walk for a little while until he could get a cane and then walk again. Great.
Yes.
Now I have the information.
Yeah.
Yes, but what did that change for her? It's not like
It
I
it's
was
don't
a
know
gonna.
terrible
why.
thing to tell her. In fact, because what it led to was her
Yeah.
jumping in front of a fucking train.
But,
Like,
so
maybe-
here's the thing.
maybe
I
Eli
don't
shouldn't have told her.
understand. I don't understand why. And this is the part where I feel like the book, it doesn't go off the rails. I don't want to say that. But the way that the way she decides to end her life at the end of the book,
Mhm,
Michaela,
mhm.
didn't feel like
I think it's
Oh.
wild if you're gonna tell me that it didn't feel right to her character.
it's not that it didn't feel right, but I don't know why that slight bit of information was the turning point for her, where she goes,
I don't
where
think
she
it's
decides like
I
this
don't
is
think
it.
it's the turning point. I think it was the final thing she needed to know.
She was just waiting for that bit of
Yes.
information.
Yeah.
That's fair
Just
enough.
that she
That's
walked
fair.
on clotheslines
Yeah. I mean,
with
I think,
no nets underneath.
Yeah, I think that my reading of that information that is given to her is that I think, because she says like she thought that when she heard it she would feel better, right?
Mhm.
That she would, but there's but that story part of that story includes her dad basically letting himself being run off the road, so so that because it was more important to him that this girl get away than he possibly live and get back to his daughter. So I think that's part of the information that kind of, I think for her it was like, this information, if it does make me feel better, I can keep going, right? But because maybe this is a missing piece of my life. Like, this is a piece missing out of the middle of my life that I don't know what happened. Maybe this is the reason why I feel the way I do. I am the way I am. And then she gets the information, and I don't think it changes anything about the way she feels. So I think that is kind of what leads her to, to where she is.
And instead of dealing with it, she runs away permanently.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like this is the final, like it, and it's immediately contrasted with Lilia's final ending in Italy. Very fitting, by the way, for me. But it's contrasted obviously with these two girls that physically have been running away and then mentally have been running away, right? Because obviously, like, it's not explicitly said, but like Michaela is clearly either an alcoholic or a drug addict. And so mentally running away and then physically running away, and then the both of them have these like permanent endings to them running away when things come to this like ultimate climax. And Eli also gets this like permanent ending where his brother, that's constantly away, never around, comes back and wants to take Eli on these like adventures, and Eli's like, actually, I just want to go home. I was like, wow, metaphorical. But they all have these like endings at this point, and it's just that I think Michaela, just as a personality, is obviously destructive about those around her. Whether that's her fault or not is not what we're arguing about, because she definitely does have a hard life, but she is destructive to what is around her.
Yeah. I mean, Lilia's also had an incredibly difficult life. Her mother tried to kill her when she was 7.
Justin.
Threw her out
She
a
doesn't
fucking
remember.
window.
She doesn't remember that.
Yeah, but somewhere
it doesn't matter. You have trauma.
The trauma is in there. The reason she doesn't remember is because she's traumatized.
Because she
was
blocked it
definitely
out.
old enough to remember. It happened the night before her dad took her. She watched her dad, which she could have assumed kill someone, because she doesn't know that the guy's still alive. Yeah. After that, it goes off the thing.
Actually, she does. She does know that. Well, I mean, later
no,
she finds
she doesn't
it. She
know because she says she thinks she saw him, and then the dad's like, well, that's impossible because of what happened.
But I thought at one point in the book, Michaela talks about coming to make peace, so she does know he's alive. She came to Montreal to make peace with him.
I also understood that Lillian knew he was alive, or she wanted to make peace with his entity, whatever, whether it's Michaela or the father.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe you're right, but the way that I read it was
No,
like
maybe
she
you're
knew
right.
he was alive,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that she was coming to just make peace with it.
And so, but I think like, obviously Lilia is also a destructive person. She also is a person who, you know, pretends like she's not attached to anything and can move from place to place and not care. But every place she goes, she develops a relationship with somebody. And you see the relationship in Chicago, and she's obviously getting worse and worse at running away because the relationship in Chicago, she tells her that she's going to leave, right? And then,
Very courageous, by the way.
yeah, that fight, which is like a very believable fight between two people, not about the subject matter, but the way in which like she digs at her about information that she doesn't like, but kind of masks it in like a compliment. It's
And then they dance the night away.
and they dance the night away. And then when she goes to New York, she spends a lot of time with Eli, right? She moves in with him, all this stuff, and then but then she still has sort of like this exit plan that she's going, she's going through, almost because it's just what her instinct. It's like what she feels like she has to do, right? She's built this sort of persona in her mind of who she is, and she leaves eventually, no matter what, right? She's just gonna leave. But and I think I'm curious, like to me, like as much as Christopher has like that, he pulls them over and he has like that nice speech to them where he's like, I'm not gonna, I know you did the right thing and I want to let you go and no one's gonna look for you. You don't have to run anymore. I just want to, I just want to let you know that you're safe. And, he could have turned them in at any point and he didn't, and all of this stuff. For me, he is like one of the least sympathetic characters in the entire book, because I'm like, your whole deal, you ruined your daughter's life by not paying any attention or by leaving or not even thinking, because there's somewhere he's like, I've been here for 6 weeks, I haven't even thought about her. And it's this like,
yeah, the only reason he knows his daughter's age is because he knows Lilia's age.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't even talk to her when her mother leaves. It's all this stuff. And also it is a little creepy, like he tells Lilia that he loves her.
It's very creepy.
I'm like,
there's a part of me that didn't really understand Christopher's motivations. Like okay, I sort of understand. I am the grandchild of a police officer, so I can understand that sometimes there are cases and stuff that will follow you forever, and you're constantly running away from them. And I can understand that maybe that's the idea that was there, is that this idea of like obsession that I think some of the characters have, right? Like Michaela's obsessed with what happened to her father. Eli's obsessed with Lilia. Christopher is obsessed with Lilia as well. So this idea of obsession and that it's a case that he never solved, but like he did solve it. So I was just very confused by his motivations. And I think that this is where, if Emily St. John Mandel wrote it today, the I forgot the word, not psychedelic, telekinetic, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but that type of power would be stronger. I think the understanding of Christopher's motivations would be a bit stronger if the telekinesis aspect was a bit stronger. Because then we could be like, oh, yeah, but like, you know what I'm trying to say? Not telekinesis.
No, telekinesis is moving things with your mind.
Yeah. I guess it's
it's like it's that like that connection, right? That like mental connection to somebody is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, but like why like I think over time, like I feel like that's maybe where the book faltered a bit, is like there's no real explanation as to why he continues to follow them,
and why he feels so drawn or connected to whatever is happening with her.
And then when he finds them, or he finally talks to them, he's like, peace out, A-Town. And that's it. And we're like, what?
And that's the part where I say, like, it's her first book, she hasn't figured it out yet. She hasn't figured out how she's going to sort of, that she needs this sort of structure around these ideas to really make them hit home or make sense in a way that makes it as gratifying as it will be when she gets later on in her writing career. You know, and I think, but just, I mean, I mostly agree that I think most of the characters, really all the characters in a lot of ways, are kind of terrible. They're the, you know, Eli is kind of the least terrible in many ways to me, because at least he's not like actively.
He was just annoying.
Like he's definitely annoying. Yes, he's absolutely.
If Eli was following me, I would be like, yeah, I'm also not coming out of hiding.
Yeah. There's so many times where I'm like, dude, just go home. You should not be here anymore.
Yeah, why are you getting racking up your credit card debt?
Yeah. She doesn't want to be found. She doesn't want you to chase her. She just she would have left you a clue if she wanted you to chase her. She just wanted to be gone. So just let her go, man. Like, you got to let her go. And I think, you know, I think there is a moment, right, where
maybe that's the commonality between Christopher and Eli. Like, maybe there's.
Yeah, I think there was supposed to be a connection between the two of them, for sure. And why they're both sort of, and, you know, Michaela being in both of their lives, and the, you know, I think is definitely, she's doing that on purpose, for sure. And I think she wants you to be annoyed and wants you to sort of question what Eli's doing. I don't think she wants you to think like, Eli's this amazing romantic dude who's doing all this stuff. Like, he's obviously desperate and is making a lot of bad choices constantly throughout this thing. You know, and like, yes, he probably could, like, he talks a couple times about how he like was doing, like, he would just like walk around places and hope to see her, Lilia. I'm like, dude, you're not really doing like a targeted search. Here. She probably lives somewhere near where you are right now, you know, like,
and,
you know,
and that's what I mean. Like, if you like, if you put your mind to it, and maybe that's again this like lack of skill yet that Emily St. John Mandel has, because maybe there's this obvious telepathic.
That's what it was.
Telepathic connection between Michaela and Eli. That's why they found each other so immediately. And then between Michaela's father and Lilia, and so they're all connected in this telepathic way. But Eli and Lilia can't seem to find each other.
No,
not that
Lilia
wants.
They're not supposed to be together.
Yeah,
you know, they're not supposed to be together, which is obvious by the fact that, like, you know, this very like 500 Days of Summer like sort of ending where she goes and finds, like, you know, the person she's actually supposed to, her hot Italian husband or whatever that she finds.
Don't we all want to move to Venice?
You know, but you know, she has that moment, which is a, you know, a very physical, you know, manifestation of her stopping running away, which is her dropping all this stuff about her past, you know, the names and the places and like all this stuff that she's sort of been like holding on to, which is the thing that she brought with her everywhere, which is sort of the thing that, you know, sort of tracks her runaway progress, right? She drops in the river, and lets it float away. So she's kind of saying, like, that's it. Like, I'm not, you know, I'm not doing this anymore. And
2 seconds. I just thought of something also, just to go. I'm still insulted that Justin thinks Michaela's an innocent little flower. She invited Lilia and Eli to come to the metro station to watch her unalive herself.
Fair enough. Well, no, she didn't invite Eli. She invited.
Yes, she did. She said, Place des Arts is beautiful in the summer.
No, because she says say goodbye to her for me. So she sent him on his way to go look for her.
Yeah.
Knowing that.
And he realizes what's going on.
He realizes it, turns around and runs back.
Yeah. Because she has that line, like, right before where, you know, she goes, like, you're going to take her back to Brooklyn and I'm going to be here alone. And he goes,
which,
you know,
like,
you
calm down. Like,
and he goes, like, you don't want to live here anymore. Like, you say you don't want to be, so go. He's like, you know, and he says, oh, you said you can't live here. And she goes, I can't. And I'm leaving tonight or whatever, which is her saying she can't live anymore or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's really
that is true. She didn't actually tell him.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
She told Lilia.
She did tell
Which
Lilia.
I think is evil.
Yeah.
This girl was also abducted and stalked by your dad.
Yeah.
Let's calm down.
Yeah. But that's what I think very much, like, again, it's very much like, it's very much what Glass Hotel's about, which is like this these set of actions that sort of reverberate around to a bunch of people, and something that isn't necessarily like a person's fault becomes sort of the thing that hangs around somebody else's neck, right? Christopher's obsession with Lilia is not Lilia's fault. Like, she had nothing to do with it. Like, she had nothing to do with anything that was happening there as a kid. And I thought she also Mandel did a really good job of sort of, when we're in the chapters where Lilia is very young, this idea of how like these memories aren't really memories, and they're just sort of like sounds and feelings and like a haze almost to what's happening. I thought was a really good description of that kind of like brain development and how that,
because it's also where she realizes like, oh, this is where I'm from, because I recognize the accent. Immediately French comes back to her within her spirit. Her and her brother both talk about listening to like the phone, like the boom, like that noise. Speaking in French.
There's the only good character, her brother.
Oh yeah, Simon.
Character, yes.
A mensch.
Simon.
So I was waiting for you to say it like that.
Simon, that's his name.
A great guy.
Yeah.
The best.
I mean, besides leading a worldwide, a countrywide abduction.
Yeah.
At such a young age. Mastermind, actually.
A mastermind. Like, called like, his mother's ex-husband, who was not even his dad, and was like, you need to come over here. And not even like,
and that's how you know the dad's actually a good dad, despite the abduction.
Yeah, well, he also
despite the abduction and the affair with the 17-year-old and the attempted murder and the spending time 6 months in the clink.
So true.
But
actually, great character. Hang on, best character in the book besides Simone.
Yeah,
Clara,
good character.
Oh, Clara's
good character.
Too.
Looks down, recognizes two fugitives, and says, "I'll buy your fake story."
Yeah. Why don't you come back
to
my
also
house?
Get pregnant.
Why don't you come back to my place?
But that was one time where I did like, and again, I think this book very much, like I said, is about, the sort of messy, complicated fuck ups that most everybody is, in a lot of ways, because, there's that moment with the scene between Clara and Christopher where, Christopher is like, I know you weren't thinking about it, but there are things that can happen. So I'm going to tell you why you can never, ever say anything. Like, and like that, I thought if that had been his last scene and there had been a scene where he like weirdly told Lilia he loved her when he pulled him over or whatever, I would have had much better feelings about him than I ended up having. But I like that she herself was like, I knew before I ever saw him. And, but the moment where she was like, she like, was going to give him up, right, to Christopher. Like, if it came to that, like, she's like, I'm caught. I got to try to save myself a little bit here. Like, I can't just pretend. This guy obviously knows, right? And so I thought, like, she's not just like the saintly, Midwestern, small town waitress who just is like, who's perfect. I like that she had levels to herself as well.
Yeah, and so much of those levels was done in like so few pages, right?
Yes.
Because it's like we have 2 chapters where Clara is visible to us.
Yeah.
So you have the chapter where she basically takes in this teenager, who she very well knows that these 2 people are fugitives.
Yeah.
But understands that probably saw, honestly, the missing persons case. Would not surprise me. And understands maybe that there was more to the story. And then again, you have where she is pregnant, and willing to, right? She was pregnant. That's the vibe.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, she says it.
Okay, perfect.
Christopher says it to her. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, rude. And
I can see you're pregnant, he says to her. Damn, Christopher.
Christopher is really going down the ladder of the people I like. But
maybe
and,
she
like,
was like
protecting
7 months
herself.
pregnant, and it's a coin flip that you could be like.
No, I don't think so.
I don't
because,
think
sure.
a
because
coin
Lilia
flip is a good enough chance.
Yeah, Lilia would have brought it up in her little chapter before she left on her little trip with her dad.
So he doesn't actually say that he loves her. He just says "my love," which is
still weirder.
Why are you defending this?
Because
My
Bobby
love
said
is
that he said
weirder to me.
what?
I think it's weirder. I wish we left it at I love you.
Yeah.
Because I could have been like a fatherly, like, my love. I don't think my dad has ever said that to me in
my grandfather
love.
said my love all the time to like literally everybody. So it's not like an uncommon phrase for me.
Fine.
Yeah.
Valid.
He never met this girl before that moment.
Yeah.
Yes, I get that. I get that. Well, my grandfather said my love to literally any woman that walked in front of him, and in not a sexual way.
Okay.
But that was just something because I never remember him saying like, you know, like this declaring the love for her. But I get what
But it makes sense that you wouldn't see it in a creepy way though. Like now I understand, right?
Yeah, it makes sense now.
Yeah. Like me and Bobby are visibly like, what?
Yeah.
Fuck?
You've gone too far, Christopher.
The stalking was enough.
Yeah, Chris, let's just walk
Christoph.
out of diners every time you see them walk in. Like that's leaving your meal there.
He's like, wonder what they're eating today.
Yeah. That's creepy enough. I would really like. This book is full of complicated, but somewhere well-meaning father figures who make a lot of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And terrible mothers. And so I'm really wondering what Emily St. John Mantel's relationship is with her mother, because both the mothers that you learn about in this book are terrible. Like the one I was trying to say threw her daughter out a window, which I was like, I was like, oh, because I'd almost forgotten about the beginning when she was like, put the board on the window and pretend you threw a ball through it.
That I was on that the whole time.
God,
I was like,
forgot that.
Yeah.
Really?
I thought she just like freaked out. I thought she just like thrown a bottle through the window.
Yeah, me too. I thought like there was some
drunk or
sort of
something.
me too.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
so they make it. Well, the thing is, they make the references to the scars.
Yes, and I knew something was up with the
They
scars.
keep bringing that up, and then when the mother comes and she's like, "Get me a ball," and like put a ball through the window, I was just like, "Oh, something here is not all on the up and up."
Oh yeah, definitely thought that, and I thought definitely there was an abuse thing or something because of the scars, and then
the brother telling her, "Don't come home when
don't
she's
come home."
8 years old. Like, keep going, don't stop.
Yeah.
Like I immediately clocked probably that the mother, because I think there's also a like, why would the father choose to like such a serious crime and she go willingly, right? So if we look at like even just dynamics in court between like divorce proceedings, like often the woman gets not first dibs. What is with my brain tonight? Custody.
That's what they call it. That's the legal term for it. You got first dibs on this kid.
Good God, Kelsey.
Full-time custody on a child, right? So it's like, if you...
I award first dibs
to the mother.
Anyways, what I meant was to go to such extreme lengths, knowing that you likely don't have something holding you up in court. You would maybe go knowing that your kid is in danger, and knowing that your stepson tells you this like horrific tale. You feel like it's the only thing that you can do, and also knowing that you're not a Canadian citizen, right? So you can leave the country and be fine in the States, and only really like will it has to go through like extreme lengths to be a cross-country search, one, and then two, a private detective with an obsession is your only real
and some
worry
sort of
in life.
Telekinetic
Oh yeah, and his telepathy behavior.
Yeah. And then Michaela's mom.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
No, Justin, go ahead. That was passionate.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just thinking back to, since you brought up the telepathic thing, like, doesn't he just leave sometimes and go chase her down just to be like, is she in West Virginia?
Yes.
Fuck, she is in West Virginia.
Shit, she's in West Virginia.
Is she in Chicago?
Damn it.
Fuck, she is in Chicago. like he's so weirded out by this connection that he has with her that he's like hoping that he's wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess.
But yeah, go back about
and then Michaela's mom.
Michaela's mom
like,
sucks.
Oh, she sucks so
she
bad.
Sucks so much.
That whole scene at she does a lot of terrible things, but that scene that's like the parent teacher conference. And she's like, huh? Who cares? I'm not coming here again.
Oh, yeah. And Michaela's like, please Alas, mother, I am but a wee child getting my education.
She's ferocious. Well, I mean, to be fair, if somebody called Jorah ferocious, I'd be like, say that again.
Yeah.
Can you define that?
Yeah.
But it was, to me, it was the reading of the paper at the table. Oh, am I bothering you?
Yeah.
Just so like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if my husband was obsessed with a 9-year-old child.
Yeah, but she was
But
fucking
that was
around
before that. That was before it
I
started.
guess, yeah.
Because he found the cufflink like under the bed. Because that's
And
what
the
he's
tie.
running away from,
yeah.
right?
And the tie that was specifically thrown in the closet.
Yeah, she was playing little games.
Yeah,
she was playing
and that was
games.
before he even took the case. So that's what he's running away from, right? Is like this, you know?
Yeah, because at first he was like, "I'm not a private detective."
Yeah,
Peter. I don't know what you thought.
And I have to say, again, she very much doesn't like to play in like realism, but I'm like, what? Where is the money coming from for you to? I mean, at a certain point, the contract's over, so he's just doing it on his own dime, but he's tracking her officially with this organization for a very long time and not finding her, like spending years in years looking for, like traveling in the States for whatever, and they're just like, oh, you can't find, it's fine, we'll just keep it going.
I
Well,
think
he said he blew through the savings.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's the
blew through savings and then
contract.
sold the house.
Yeah.
Yes, but that's when like
it's way later.
That's like
but
8 years later or whatever.
Yeah, but I think it's the contract. I'm sure that there's a specific amount of money that was like agreed upon in this contract.
Yeah.
And if I were a mother who knew that I threw my daughter out of a window and likely my American ex-husband abducted her, I maybe would keep up a pretense by fulfilling this contract on my end.
Yeah.
So that nothing comes like, oh, well, why aren't you paying anymore? Why don't you care anymore? You're a grieving mother. No, like.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, he had other cases, right? Working at the, he was a cop, right? He was a cop, right? There was a moment
though where because Peter goes like, you can ignore your other cases and do this thing. I mean, he takes that leave of absence from the police department, and then they never talk about the police department again. So I'm assuming he just leaves the police department fully.
Yeah,
because I think this his whole life succumbs to this.
Yeah, for sure. Yes,
yeah.
Well, the other thing I was thinking of was just that he's just driving around the country. So yeah, there's gas, but he's
gotta be staying somewhere though. He can't.
He has to eat.
I mean, yes, but we're talking in early 2000s
though in the United States, searching for this girl. So it's
also
cost some amount of money.
You guys should know that the conversion rate from American dollars to Canadian dollars.
What was it like in 2000 though?
Horrible, probably. It's always been bad.
Yeah, it's always been bad. It's always been pretty bad.
Yeah.
You
guys don't like us.
You have free healthcare.
I don't think like has anything to do with the conversion number. I think that.
Speak up for us.
I think that is governed by something way bigger than our like or dislike.
I
know. Yeah, but I think it
I think it's a brilliant book. I think there's some things that she's definitely refined over the years, but I think if this was written now, it would be like 10 stars out of 10. It's just that right now there's like little things that we can pick on or nitpick.
Well, because we know she has.
We know you could do better, Emily.
She gets better, So that's the thing. It's like
to me, it's embarrassing though. Like, this is your first book.
Yeah, you know what?
It's
I want to know
one of the best books I've ever read.
Like,
what? Why are you so good at this?
Yeah, I want to know how old she was when she wrote this book. Actually, let's find out together.
Okay,
she's 45 years old now.
Yeah.
So she's older than us, guys. Wow.
She
Not by that much.
Okay.
She doesn't look 45. I mean, look on the back of this cover.
2000. Okay, but this was published in 2000. 2009?
Yeah.
How old would she have been?
I don't know. Kelsey, I'm not good at math.
Me neither.
I mean, it was 15 years ago, so she was 30. Right?
In 2009?
That was 15 years ago, right?
Yes.
If she's 45 now.
Yeah.
15 years ago.
Okay, so she was 30,
Bust out the calculator.
which means she went to university 15 years, let's say 12 years before that. So it makes sense that it takes place in the even the late 90s.
Yeah, because it's definitely pre 2009. It takes place.
Yeah, for sure.
2009 is a post iPhone world, so there would be a lot of different stuff going on.
Yeah.
And there's also like, there's no like, they don't talk once about like GPS tracking or facial recognition or like cameras picking them up, like traffic cameras picking them up, or anything.
That's true. Yeah, and the fact that they use payphones still. Like I cannot
payphones. Yeah.
I cannot tell you if there's a payphone on the island of Montreal.
Yeah, well, they got rid of all of them in New York City.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're gone now.
We might have like a couple, but like other than that, like I really don't.
It's a different time.
So.
And I watched this movie like a couple weeks ago called Totally Killer, which is like a
in 2002 she began to write this novel. Sorry, go on.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
I just saw that.
That makes sense. That makes sense. This like horror comedy about this girl who gets thrown back in time to the 80s to like solve a murder or whatever, and
isn't it
it's Sabrina from Sabrina
yes,
the
exactly.
Teenage
Yes,
Witch.
yes.
And it's really fun, and she's great in it. But she like she goes to register for school, and she's like, I need to register for school. My name is.
Yeah, they just give her a schedule.
I transfer her. They're like, oh, here's your schedule, and she's like, don't you need to like verify anything? And they're like, what do you just get out of here? And she like looks away, and she's like, wow, this is wild. And it's like, that's how I feel even reading this. It's like, it's just a different world.
Time.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense because it's like she was writing this while living here after university. So it's like, oh, it totally makes sense for like the vibe of the book and like the locations and like where things are specifically taking place. Something that I did want to bring up, and since we're coming towards the end of like our discussion of the book, is how very much English Canadian coming to Quebec this book is. And I know I brought it up several times, but I have two examples of what this is. First of all, our favorite Grimes, Miss Grimes, married to Elon Musk before this, was she grew up in an affluent Vancouver neighborhood, so rich, came to Montreal, and this is just the vibe of like university kids in Montreal that are from out of province, is that they're very well off, and then they come to live this like impoverished lifestyle in Montreal. And Grimes is one of them. And all of Grimes' music at this time, if you listen to this is how I feel every day. It's just unhinged, walking in the streets. And the second thing I wanted to bring up was Crystal Castles, which is another Toronto-based like indie electric band. Their music was featured in like Skins and like a lot of like hipstery type of media at the time, very indie. So Grimes and Crystal Castles are my two music recommendations. If you would like to know what the vibe is of affluent, richer kids coming to Montreal and living their life. Not saying Emily St. John Mandel is one of those, but she does come from Vancouver, so I'm just saying to come to Quebec. Did you guys have anything else?
Yes.
Oh, jeez. Go on.
So serious.
Sorry.
Yes.
I really love this page. I'm just going to read this.
Do it, my friend.
Oh my gosh. Bedtime stories.
The problem, Eli used to think before he met her, was that he never suffered, except insofar as everyone does. The stalled trains, the alarm clocks that don't ring when they're supposed to, the agony of being surrounded by other people who all give the impression of being way more productive and considerably more talented than you are. Wet socks in the winter, being alone in any season, the chronic condition of being misunderstood, zippers that break at awkward moments, being unheard and then having to repeat yourself embarrassingly in front of girls you're trying to impress girls and failing, girls who can be seduced but remain unimpressible, girls who can't be seduced and or turn out to have boyfriends in the morning, girls being alone, paper grocery bags with falling out bottoms, waiting in line at the post office for a half hour and then being snapped at because you don't have the right customs declaration forms to send the birthday gift to your perpetually traveling brother, waiting in line anywhere, phone calls from a disapproving mother who doesn't understand, the crowd of overeducated friends who understand too much and can't resist bringing up long-dead philosophers and or quantum physics over an otherwise perfectly civilized morning coffee. Girls, an overall lack of direction and meaning as evidenced in your inability to come up with an acceptable topic for your thesis and then write the thesis or heroically give up the whole thing completely and go on to do something completely different with your life. Stepping in things on the sidewalk, lost buttons, most kinds of rain, standing in line at the grocery store behind a lady who just knows there's a coupon in here somewhere. Girls, and the sense that all this adds up to a life that is ultimately pretty shallow and doesn't really mean that much, particularly in comparison to the older brother saving children in Africa. What a fucking well-written, like, and I read that and I was just like, okay.
And you get such a good picture of who Eli is.
Yes, like 100%.
Like, his life is so mundane.
Yeah.
Very good. What a beautiful read. Thank you.
He did a great job, and that's also interesting because, like, I think it's also telling that she started writing this in 2002. You said so. She's like in her early 20s when she starts writing this, so she's probably in university, and this is probably some of the stuff that she's thinking about, right? Her own life at this point. Because I remember, like, I used to think, like, in my early 20s when I was, like, trying to, like, be creative or be an artist or whatever, that, like, oh, I just had too easy a life. Like, I don't have, like, these things to be able to, like, draw from, these wells to be able to draw from, to, like, create these art, or to be interesting to people, or to whatever. So it's cool to hear that, for sure.
Yeah, and this is also very Montreal. Like I was just explaining with, like, Grimes and Crystal Castles, is they're interesting and they create this art, but their struggles are just moving to a French city.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And as it is a struggle in and of itself, right? Because obviously someone like me, I can fluctuate between both worlds. And I can understand how isolating it feels to be an English speaker in Montreal. Like, that's their biggest struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So right. I can understand that when you're wanting to be this creative spirit, or have this talent to be this creative spirit, looking at beauty or desolence in the mundane is where you're going to find meaning in what you want to create.
For sure. My biggest takeaway is, after reading this book, I never want to go to Montreal.
You really should come to Montreal.
First of all, take that back. Why?
Maybe not in the winter.
Explain your reason. Yeah, okay, fine, the winter. But honestly, we have Igloo Fest and it's a lot of fun. But why don't you want to come to Montreal?
Because she made it sound terrible.
It's not that bad. You just have to have strong spirit.
I'm sure it's not bad in actual real life, but this book, I was like, this is like an anti-tourism book for Montreal.
It definitely is.
Yeah. Like it did not sound like you're having a good time in Montreal.
Yeah, but that's also because all these characters are trying to find meaning.
That's true.
In nothing.
They're all already miserable too.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're in winter, you have to find chances of happiness.
Yeah. There are those moments of Christopher when he's not, like, obsessing over a little girl, where he's, like, talking about his neighborhood, and that seemed, like, nice. When he's, like, talking about, like, the shops around where he lives, and, like, the and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like where I work, the neighborhood is wonderful. Mm-hmm. I love it. There's all these, like, little shops, especially, like, that's why a lot of people enjoy Montreal too, because this like big city lifestyle is not really present in, like, the downtown to, like, old port type of, like, there's no Costco, there's no, like, so this type of, like, small town European life is still pretty well kept there, and also in Vieux Quebec, in Quebec City. So these two parts of these two cities are very much like, they feel like you're somewhere else. And I think that this also adds to, like, the mysticism and, like, the running out of time, because you feel like you're somewhere else. You don't feel like you're in Toronto. You don't feel like you're in New York. It doesn't feel touched by America yet in a way, even though it very much is.
It definitely has a different feel. 100%.
Is that cruise ship real that they're talking about? That's docked in the... What is that thing they were talking about? Wasn't there a boat or something they kept talking about going to sea?
There was a cruise ship that they kept talking about, Kelsey.
Yeah, there was a cruise ship they kept talking about.
You're so right. And I was just like, oh, it's one of those ships that just stays in the port.
Okay.
Yeah, that does happen.
That's how I figured
yeah.
it.
Right.
It's not like it's not a cruise ship really. Like we do have because Montreal's
They
a
did
port.
say cruise ship though.
They did in the book, yeah.
I don't think it's meant to be anything because like Montreal's a port city, so we have boats that come in and out all the time. So, but we definitely have like cruises that leave from here, but they're not. And we have Arctic cruises too, actually. But I don't think it was meant to be.
I didn't know if it was like a landmark or something. That's what because like
no,
like in the South Street Seaport.
Maybe it was at the time.
City,
Let's look.
There's like a docked cruiser, that never leaves or whatever. So
famous cruise ship.
That's what I was wondering.
Montreal. Let's look it up together.
All right.
The 25 best cruises from Montreal in 2024. It doesn't seem like anything, to be honest.
Okay.
Maybe it was something in 2009
or 2002.
Is this our first? This is our first book club of the year, right? Yeah.
It is.
Yes. No, I don't think it's anything.
Okay. That's
what's happening. Yeah, no. Yeah. Nothing.
Kelsey, do you want to share what the next book is?
Yes. Wait.
I'm not gonna show it until you show it.
Oh my god, it's a thick book.
Told you how long it was.
Relax, you.
Relax, ordinary monsters.
Yeah, calm down.
Yeah. Well, all I know is next time when I pick the next book, when it's my turn after Kelsey, I'm not consulting with you guys at all. I'm just picking a book and being like, tough shit, read it.
First of all, I've already brought up this book in the past.
You have?
Yes. And also, I'm the teacher, so I'm allowed to be included in the discussions.
I'm not sure about that.
Anyway,
please continue.
It's The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter.
I don't have it yet, so pretend I'm holding it. It's right here.
Wow, beautiful. This is a fantasy novel. Originally, it was published as an independent, like by the author, but got picked up by regular publishing. So I think that's amazing. It's an amazing feat. And it's for fans of Game of Thrones and Gladiator. So let me just get the actual synopsis because it's not written on this book. I don't know if I have the indie published version. But let me read you the synopsis. I probably should have had this prepared, but alas.
Alas, I say.
Don't speak up when the teacher's speaking. So the people in this book have been fighting an unwinnable fight for almost 200 years. Their society has been built around war. So the lucky ones are born gifted. 1 in every 2,000 women has the power to call down dragons, and 1 in every 100 men is able to magically transform himself into a bigger, stronger, faster killing machine. I have a feeling they're the dragons. And then they go.
Like one of those men and one of those women are going to be together.
Whoa. Watch out there. I tried reading this 2 years ago, and I got 50 pages in, and I gave up. But
great, I'm glad that you assigned it.
But I think it's mostly because at the time that I did start reading this, I got into like a reading slump, and I just don't think it. I put it down for my own. Like I didn't want to ruin the book for me. So I am going to start the audiobook from the beginning, follow along, and hopefully enjoy it more. But at least it'll give us a fantasy book to talk about and not depression.
We don't know. You don't know that, Kelsey.
I don't know. I literally don't know that. And just knowing myself and the like, that if it is depression, I'll be like, wow, this book was so good. So much layers. In terms of the amount of pages, Justin, just for your
523.
Knowledge. Exactly.
I shared that with him today. He asked me how long it was.
Oh my god!
Please.
First, he asked me information about it to make sure it wasn't some sort of like romantic fantasy book.
Just like you're the one that wants to read that.
What?
You
the
keep
romantic
saying
fantasy
it.
book?
Yes.
What?
You're like, smut? You always say that.
It's a joke, Kelsey.
Well, I thought that you wanted to read it, so
I mean, if it's
I'll
good
take
smut, I'll
Akatar
read
off our list. Exactly.
it. Kelsey, I'm joking. I'll gladly read it.
Um,
Bobby said it's got really great reviews, so
It does
I'm
Yeah, it
excited to
does.
read
It
it.
does.
It's on like the Time
I need-
100
you know what?
best fantasy books of all time.
Yeah,
list.
guys, and you
I-
guys are always shitting on me about being judgmental about popular fantasy books, and then here I come bringing one for all of us to share and enjoy.
What popular fantasy book did I give you shit about?
What's his name? Andy Weir.
That's not a fantasy book. It's a sci-fi book.
Whatever, it's the same category.
That's
And
not the same guy.
it's called sci-fi fantasy. Look it up.
Yeah.
Okay, Kelsey.
Okay, Kelsey.
And then
Science
the
fiction
other
and
books,
fantasy are different departments in Barnes and Noble.
well, not in Canada.
Okay, well,
Wow.
all right.
Weird.
They're in the
Canada's
same
weird, man.
row.
Maybe you're right, Bobby. You shouldn't visit Montreal because they
Yeah, I shouldn't.
combine sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah.
We should though because we could go to bookstores. But anyways,
They're
and
gonna yell at me
also
because I don't know how to speak French.
no, we'll go to the English bookstores, please.
Okay.
I know where to go. And also, what were we saying? There was another book that you guys got. You were like, of course you hated it.
I don't remember. I don't know.
I don't remember. We don't
I
have to have
remember
this
either.
discussion.
I can look back through our text chain if you want. There was a bunch of them,
Mhm.
but I suggested like 15 books before last night in Montreal.
Speaking of books,
Mm.
I'm going to quickly read off the books that I've read so far this year.
Yes, I'm gonna do that after you, Justin.
Oh my God, how many books have you read?
This would be 8. So I have I started the year by finishing Empire of Gold, the David
Mhm,
Bod trilogy.
mhm.
So that's done. I read the guide. I can't read all the artists, the authors' names. The guide by
guide?
Peter Heller. Yeah, the guide by Peter Heller. The Cartographers by Peng Shepherd. 2 of Grady Hendrix books, My Best Friend's Exorcism and The Final Girl Support Group. A History of Wild Places by Shay Earnshaw. Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. And now Last Night in Montreal. The 4 comic books that I've read don't count, but they're somehow counting on my
They count.
list.
They count.
Reading
comic books.
is yes.
Yes,
Comic books
reading
don't
is
count.
reading. Justin.
Yes, they do. Reading is reading. Would you tell that to a child?
Yes.
Do their books not count, Justin?
No, they're age appropriate. Those books.
So are comic books.
Comic books are not. No, they don't count as actual books. Those are different.
No, they
Comic
do, and I'm
books-
not getting in this
a
argument.
30 a
Anything that
30-page
encourages
comic
reading,
book.
anything that encourages reading is a
Oh
book.
my god! If that was true, then I would have read.
A comic book
thousand-
or-
a
or-
thousand
Okay, wait
bucks.
now,
No.
wait now. Not a 30-page.
That's
Not
what
like
I'm
a single
saying.
issue.
But since
Yeah, not an
with-
issue. Like a
since you're I'm talking about an issue. Like I read
Oh, I thought you were
4
talking like a
issues of
graphic
comics.
novel.
But because
okay.
Oh.
Amazon, it grabs your Amazon, like you log in with Amazon, so it grabs all those books. Like
I don't-
Comixology,
Oh, 'cause they're all
Comixology is
Kindle.
owned by
Oh,
Amazon.
Comixology.
They're all
Yeah,
it's all
yeah.
through the Kindle app now. So
They're
if you
off the
read
Kindle now.
anything on your Kindle, it goes on your Goodreads thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
if
Gotcha.
a graphic
Okay.
novel is different, I would have said yes, that counts.
Yeah, I
as
also
well.
saw that you updated Goodreads in the middle of our conversation about how you finished Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm always watching.
But did I? And I did
Just so
last
you
night in
know.
Montreal, right?
Yeah,
All I
I
saw
gotta- I gotta
was
put my
Spider-Man
stars
17
on-
minutes ago. So
I'm gonna read mine. I'm at 9 so far.
woo!
I started off the year with Lessons in Chemistry by
What
Bonnie
did you like
Darmus.
it? I can't
I
remember.
thought it was fine.
Okay, cool.
It was very easy to read. Like I was never bored by it. And it was sort of like it had a little bit of magical realism to it that I just didn't like dig, too much. But reading it, I think I don't know if I think I said this to you in a text, Kelsey. I was like, was this book written for Brie Larson to eventually star in an
Yes,
adaptation of it?
Yeah,
Because
you said that to me too.
yeah,
Yes.
because like the character is Brie Larson. It's like there's not even like I could not see anybody else playing the role except for Brie Larson. I read All Systems Red by Martha Wells, the first in the Murderbot Diaries. This was a book that
gotta
I was
read
like,
that.
Kelsey gave it like 3 stars or 2 stars or whatever.
Okay, you
And
need
she
to
was like- and it was-
understand that 3 stars is
And
good.
it was like, and her review was like, I didn't emotionally connect with
I
the
didn't
Murderbot
connect
enough.
with the Murderbot. I can't.
I thought that book was really
Mhm, mhm.
entertaining.
Go on.
I thought it was very
Go on.
entertaining, and I want to read more of them. I read Heartstopper Volume 1, which was joyous and wonderful.
Heartstopper.
I read Horror Store, which was fantastic. It's my
The
second
best.
Grady Hendrix 5-star. And I didn't even realize until we were going through it, my Best Friend's Exorcism was his first book, and Horror Store was his second book, or vice versa.
Vice versa, yeah.
Horror Store, which is crazy.
That's why I'm reading them that way.
Yeah, which I guess I missed that flip, but amazing. The end of Horror Store is so good.
So good.
It's so
The end of his books are so good.
Yeah, he's good at ending his books for sure. I read Never Let Me Go. That was another book that Kelsey gave 3 stars to, I think. She was like, a little boring. I already knew the twist.
Okay, but can I explain to you what actually happened? Imagine reading this book and you're like, oh wow, like this is so good. And then I'm like, wait a second. I know what this is.
Yeah, I knew it too. I've seen the movie, Kelsey.
No, I know, but I didn't know. That's what I'm trying to say.
You didn't
I
know?
didn't know that I knew what it was. So then Tumblr gifs are like resurfacing in my brain of like Andrew Garfield. And I'm like, hold on a minute. And then I looked it up. I typed in Andrew Garfield movie, a little bit weird, like some Google thing that I was typing in, and it was the same movie.
Yeah.
So then I knew the twist.
I thought like the first.
I
like,
still
80,
don't know the twist. So.
Yeah, so
okay,
the
we're not
first
gonna
like,
say
80
anything.
pages, I had a little trouble getting through because it's all about like kind of hiding from you, like the state of the world or whatever. And then once I was through that, because I already knew what the thing was, I loved it. And I think like the book is just beautiful and wonderful about how it sort of talks about life in a way. It's just much like Clara and the Sun does, where it's like abstracting, and much like something like what Emily St. John Mandel does a lot of time, where she's like abstracting out these big ideas.
Yeah. I also gave Clara and the Sun 3 stars, but it's also a 5-star.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember my change of heart.
I do remember. Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, which I really enjoyed.
Such a good book.
Such a good book. So entertaining, so fun. There's an Apple TV series coming out this year, which I'm excited to see. I read The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley.
Yeah.
And I thought it was fine. I really wanted it to. It was more of an expectations thing. I really thought it was going to be like a Agatha Christie, like whodunit. Like I'm really into like this detective figuring stuff, who was figuring it out, and it was much more like White Lotus-ish, which was like.
Which one did you read? Sorry, The Hunting Party.
Hunting Party.
I heard the guest list is better.
Okay, I enjoyed her writing. I think if I go into a book kind of knowing what her deal is, I will more enjoy it. It was more like White Lotus, where it's like these rich, shitty people are all together and someone's gonna die, and you're just kind of more into like the interpersonal dynamics. It was Rowan, and I read De-Evolution by Max Brooks, which I ended up loving. It's
Max Brooks sounds so familiar.
He wrote World War Z.
We always talk about this.
Yeah, and this is the first novel he's written since World War Z, and it came out a couple years ago.
I feel like we spoke about this.
Yeah,
this is all coming back.
I really liked it a lot. It was one of those books again that was like the first like 50 pages. It's a short book. I was kind of like, I liked but was not super invested in, and then by the end I was totally in on it.
Is this
really
the
great.
Bigfoot?
Yes,
one, yeah.
the Bigfoot
Okay.
one.
Yeah. I have the cover in my brain.
Yeah. I really ended up really enjoying it. Great audiobook too, because it's it's like a told through journals and news articles.
Yes. I remember talking about this because I was like, I think I would enjoy his writing
style. Have you read World War Z?
No.
Okay, you would like World War Z a lot.
Yeah, we've already
World War
spoken
Z is
about.
great.
Do you guys want to know what I read?
And Last Night in Montreal, obviously, is the last one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, get ready. So I read Yona of the Dawn, Volume 2, which is a princess and bodyguard romance.
Okay, of course.
Then I read The Fires.
So 6 stars on Goodreads, probably.
Yeah, it's probably like 4.87.
We were talking about this, Justin and I.
Yona of the Dawn is fun, but so far it is 3 stars for me.
Okay.
It's a little controversial because I know it's loved. Then I read Fires of Heaven by Robert Jordan, 3 stars.
Wheel of Time?
Yes.
Okay.
Then I read Womb City, which was the arc that I had. It started off really strong, and then it was weird. 3 stars.
I really want to read Womb City, so I was interested in what you were thinking of it.
I enjoyed it, but I think because it's a horror sci-fi, and usually I love horror sci-fis, like throw in horror twists in there, and I'm like, oh yeah, baby, that's my jam. but I think it was too weird.
Okay.
But I think it could be. I think it's interesting and fun.
Okay.
But it was just too weird. Then
there.
I read Nona the Ninth, which is the third book in the Lock Tomb series of Gideon the Ninth and Harrow the Ninth. One of my favorite series. Amazing.
Which I confused with that Atlas whatever series.
Atlas 6 is also one of my favorite series.
I know, but I confused it completely. Just when we were talking about it, and I was like, "Oh, I think this book is that," and he's like, "Wait, isn't this the author of that book?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just confusing these name and number."
Yeah,
series.
It's okay. You'll get there.
Oh, yeah.
Although you did read somebody from that wrote.
Can I get there?
Yeah.
Jeez, Kelsey.
I was fucking throwing you an alley-oop.
Well, I'm not there yet. I'm following a list.
Oh my god.
I'm on your list.
Then I read The Galaxy and the Ground Within by Becky Chambers. Then I read The Trees Grew Because I Bled There by Eric LaRocca. He's like an up and coming like indie horror writer, and I really enjoy his stuff.
Okay.
But they're often 3 stars just because I think like his premises and everything is interesting, but he writes very short books, and I feel like sometimes it lacks like a bit of depth that I would like to have. Then I read A Song for the Wild Bull, also by Becky Chambers, fantastic, 5 stars. Then I read Blood on the Tracks Volume 2, amazing, creepy manga series. Girl from the Other Side is also a manga series. I also read Volume 2, which is a cute little post-apocalyptic, I believe is a post-apocalyptic, after like a disease.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Then I read Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake, which I also gave 5 stars. It was amazing, beautiful. Olivia Blake is a fantastic writer. So if you like writing and if you like prose, I think that you'll really like her stuff. My Best Friend's Exorcism, fantastic.
Oh yeah, that's right. Forgot you finished that finally.
Yeah, we all read it.
I know. I love that book so much.
I mean, there was one scene where I was listening to it at 10:30 in the morning, and I was like, I don't know if I needed this worm descriptions.
The worm part. She
the worm
me
part.
At 10 o'clock in the morning, and she's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I was literally like, imagine me like working, and I'm just listening to this, and it's like, and then I grab the tapeworm from. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Then Last Night in Montreal. Then I read Lord of Chaos by Robert Jordan. We're coming up, guys. We're coming up.
You like this one, right?
This was a 4 stars. I was so excited.
Wow.
I'm like, the twist. It was a soap opera. It was amazing.
Okay.
And then the slump starts from here, according to every single fan of the Wheel of Time series. So can't wait to see what I think. Then I'm starting a new romantasy vlog where I'm reading romance fantasy books.
Okay, of course.
Currently,
You got to go for the numbers, Kelsey.
I read A Touch of Darkness, which was a Hades and Persephone retelling, which
course.
I found fun because
Okay.
I love a bad boy, as we know.
I know.
And Hades is the ultimate.
Just play
the ultimate
Hades.
bad boy. The ultimate bad boy.
Just play Hades.
Everybody tells me to do that.
You would love
I
it.
have it. I bought it. I
Please
have it
just
on
play
Steam.
Hades.
I have it
That
on
game
Steam.
is so horny.
I have it on
Kelsey.
Steam. I have it on
It's so,
Steam.
It's
I
so
have it.
horny.
Everyone told me to play it. I have it. Then now I'm reading Her Villains. Do you guys want to know what this is about?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Oh my god, guys. It is a reverse harem
Of course.
inspired by the MCU.
Okay.
So
Hang on, I have to click on this now.
yeah, hold on. Let me describe it for you. So there's this girl, and she's a princess, and she's been raised to kill 4 brothers from another realm.
Okay.
However,
I've seen this cover.
to
before.
get there, she has to
Okay.
marry the 4 brothers. I'm going to tell you what these 4 brothers' names are and their passions.
Okay, lay it on.
First we have Thor,
Okay.
who has a love for electricity.
Legally distinct.
Then we have the other brother, Steel. He has a shield.
Okay.
Then we have Talon, and he loves working with iron.
Okay.
And then we have Locke, who dresses in green and loves little tricks.
Okay. All right.
Her Villains is a reverse harem fantasy with enemies to lovers themes, some violence, and steamy scenes for readers 18 plus.
This
I'm
seems like
in.
Made for Goodreads right here.
I am fucking in. Let's
You
go.
guys, I was listening to this yesterday. And it was like Thor and Steel brought me into the room, and I was like, oh. And then I was just sitting there like this. And I'm listening to this, right? So it's just like there's no escaping.
Yeah.
I can't move my eyes away.
The first comment is just keep saying the spice, and then again the spice in all capital letters.
Oh boy.
Fantastic. Ooh,
I'm gonna
this guy
probably
says
finish
smutty.
it tonight.
If you wish Marvel was smutty.
Okay.
Add
We've
to
all wished
cart.
that at some point. Do you want to see what my TBR is for?
Also, neither one of you mentioned Mistborn.
Well, because I finished that in
Oh, okay,
December.
you guys
December.
finished it. Okay, fine.
We had our own little book club about Mistborn while we were at a bar. We sent you a
Yeah.
picture and you said, "Oh my god," and that was your contribution.
I
To
Do you want us to say our
remember
thoughts out loud
this.
on this video?
No, I
Sure.
remember this. I remember this. But you can
I
go.
loved
I enjoyed Mistborn a good
I
deal.
loved it.
Bobby
I thought
liked
the
it a
magic
little bit more
system
than
was
I did.
Fucking rad. The magic is
Um,
rad.
I have the second book on
Me
my
too.
shelf.
The second
That-
book is the better one.
That's gonna be I'm gonna read that in March because I can't stack up 2 big fantasy books in this.
Bobby,
month.
can I hold up the book that we are currently reading together at the moment?
Yes, I was gonna bring it up. Go ahead.
Oh.
Tomorrow.
Oh my god! Where's my copy? It's somewhere here in my piles. Oh, I see it. It's over
It
there.
knows it's not my face, so it's not focusing on it. But anyway, can I put it right here? And I'll
So good. What page are you at?
We just started. I haven't even
I
started. yet.
haven't even opened the book
Oh my
yet.
gosh,
Yeah.
you guys. Get ready because you guys are also lovers of video games.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
So
it's
this is
also
on my-
the love for making video games too. It's so good.
I'm very excited. Very excited. So that's on my. I put myself on this like. I'm not buying any new books until I get through half of the books that I have sitting in my shelves. Other than
I don't have that rule. I
know
don't
you
follow
don't have
that rule. I don't subscribe to that lifestyle.
I have too many books. I just want to get.
My
I don't
want
turn
to
one of these
read-
people.
My want to read on Goodreads right now is currently at 72 books.
My physical TBR is probably 300 books.
That's insane. I never
I
want to
know.
live that life. So
I know. No, it's chaos. That's why this office is just a mess and I hide it behind
Wait,
my
did
body.
you put up shelves?
I've already explained to you that I have one shelf
they're in
up.
boxes.
I have 2 shelves on the floor and I have other stuff
I
piled
could
on
have
top
swore
of it.
that I saw that you put shelves up, but maybe I was wrong.
No, I might have shared someone else's.
Oh, okay, maybe that was it.
To live by
I was like,
my life
Kelsey put up
vicariously.
I was like, Kelsey put up her shelves.
So let me turn this portrait mode off on this so I can show you. So then I got Legends and Lattes is on my TBR for this month.
Woo!
I will allow myself to get library books because so I don't get like frustrated. So I got this book called The Secret Hours by Mick Herron, who wrote the Slow Horses books, which is an Apple TV series.
Oh, I just saw you put that on your Goodreads and I added it.
Yeah.
Let me know how you think. What do you think of it?
I will. I'm very excited to read that one. I'm going to read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
About time. I'm so jealous you have that hardcover.
I'm going to read Beartown.
Woo!
And
That's very hockey
and also very sad, right?
and very sad. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I've heard. I have all 3 of them. I have all 3 of this like
Oh,
trilogy of
cool.
books or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's my plan. Those are the books I'm definitely gonna try to get through in this month. And plus, obviously, the book that you assigned, Kelsey. I think that's probably gonna fill up the month. But if I have extra time, I'll probably fit in some other small ones or something like that.
I'm trying to fill my time with like manga now because I have so many comics and manga, and I just keep buying them. And then because you know what it is, I'm like, I can finish that in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, right.
So that I don't read them, and that's the problem.
That's what I'm using Heartstopper as, the volumes of Heartstopper. So when I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, I don't have enough time to start something new before I have to read something else, I'm going to read those. So that's my plan there. But I have some other short books that I have sitting around that I could read through pretty fast if I really wanted to fill time with a book. And that's why I have like the Murderbot series and stuff on deck because they're all really short, so I can read them pretty fast. I was going to do Babel this month, but then I think I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna put that till next month.
I would not read Babel at the same time as like Addie LaRue because although they're not the same at all, I think the vibe is very much like academia and like
that's
a love for like writing and stuff. So it's like I just feel like they deserve their own 2 separate months.
Yeah. So,
I'm reading some weird books this month besides our pick.
Okay.
And then I also have my Wheel
You
of
did do
Time.
your February TBR
Yes, I
video?
did.
You did. Did I watch it? I thought I watched it. Maybe I'm just crazy.
Hmm.
I haven't watched it. I texted you about your videos the other day, so don't give me a huh. All right.
I was supposed to record one this week and like I could not be bothered the whole week, so I'm relying on this live for this week, and then next week I'll probably release two. I'm gonna do my January wrap up, and then I'm going to do my Marvel Reverse Hero.
You're wrong. Yeah. No, I
Very
I watched
exciting.
the first half of your TBR.
Okay, well you
So I
already
saw
know
Milk
like what
Fed
books.
was the last one that I saw that you talk about. I think.
Yeah, it's for a specific like vlog idea I have.
Okay.
hmm
I
I'm
don't
not
know
gonna
what I'm
tell you
reading
what
this
it
month.
is. I love that. That's called mood reading and
Yeah,
embrace
that's
it.
what I did last month. That's what I did last month. I
Yeah.
was kind of just like bouncing around, and this might change.
I
Also,
have
I might be like,
ideas,
yeah,
but like after I just read these two books, so I read the last two books I read were Demon Copperhead, which was fucking intense.
Was it good?
It was very good. I enjoyed it a lot, but it was not a book where I could just sit down and be like, I'm just gonna read tonight. Like
Mhm.
I could only
Mhm.
read a certain amount a night,
Mhm.
and I was just because it's just bad times all the time. I thought it ended really well, and I was very glad that I read it. I gave it 4 stars.
I think
But
it was nominated for Man Booker, if I'm not mistaken,
yeah, it was
and
fantastic.
Woman's Prize for Fiction as well.
Mm.
But I don't really know what I'm in the mood for this month. So I'm reading tomorrow. I'm going to read the book that you suggested or that is our pick. And then
Yeah, it's not
whatever
a
else
suggestion; it's a literary requirement.
it's a requirement.
You're
And
gonna
then
borrow
I'll read.
De-Evolution.
I'm going to borrow De-Evolution, which is short, and I'll be able to
That's
get through that.
fast. You'll get to that
Yeah.
super fast. I think I read that. In
Anything
like 3
else is
days.
just literally just what I'm in the mood for. Am I in the mood for
Yeah.
like a horror book or a sci-fi
Yeah.
book or
And
maybe
this
I'll
might
read.
change too. Like I might be like, I don't really feel like reading. I might, pick
Yeah,
up.
I love that you guys have freedom from your own brains. I do not. My brain is like, excuse me, you have stuff to read. Like I assign
but
my own
here's the
pain.
thing. But I also have other hobbies where it's like, excuse me, you
Yeah.
need
Oh
to go
yeah, I
finish.
don't.
You have to go finish Jedi Survivor and start Prince of Persia and also watch all these
Prince
sports
of
games. Yeah,
Persia.
can we? Oh wait, one.
We're so
N-
proud.
no, we can't.
Oh,
talk
we can say
about it.
bye.
You can say bye and talk about stuff like that. We can't talk about it on this live.
We can say bye if you want to talk about it.
I think we should sign out for
Yeah.
the.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming. Just a reminder that this is the book that we will discuss in March.
There you go, Kelsey. You did it.
Thank you for finally getting on the right page.
Support indie authors. All right, bye, Justin.
Thank you, Bobby.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, guys, so embarrassing.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Thanks everyone, and I hope you had a really great time. Bye.